Hey guys, it's your average middle-aged American back again with another reaction video. This one's a little different. I know I say that all the time. Well, technically they're all different. Anyway, this is going to be a reaction to what is it really like to work in Germany versus the United Kingdom. I believe this gentleman is from the UK and he's working in Germany. And it's a short little video. Just thought it'd be interesting. I have not seen the video before, so we can hear it together, learn together, and see what he has to say. Just want to take a second to really thank all of my subscribers. We did hit the 500 mark, which is just amazing. It's been about 3 months now since I started this channel. I can't thank you enough, guys. Now we're headed for 1,000, and I think we can do it. So I don't ever expect to have like Mr. Beast numbers or anything, but it's nice to know that people are enjoying it. I'm learning a lot. I learn something every day, even days I don't watch videos or post videos. I still read all the comments, and I'm constantly learning, and I cannot thank you guys enough. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Thumbs up goes a long way. Enough jibber jabber. Let's get on with the video.
The concept of work is a vast topic and can differ hugely depending on your line manager, your senior leadership, and your immediate colleagues. The overarching culture of a company can be experienced very differently depending on who you are and how you perceive things. And after all, culture is formed by people, and really the interactions that we have on a daily basis make up our own experience of the company culture. I have now worked for British, French, and German companies in the retail sector, and I've also interned and worked freelance for a media agency. So if you're thinking of moving here to work, then this video might be of interest to you. Okay, work-life balance. It is very important to note that work culture in Germany differs by industry, just like it does really in any other country. And so if you're going to be working in something like, say...
Yeah, that's very true. You know, a lot of our conversations are about culture, work life, that type of thing. And, you know, I'm obviously American, and it gets brought up a lot that Americans work too much and they don't have any rights and all of this. And that's not exactly accurate. You know, in America, a lot of people work for themselves, a lot of people freelance, and it does depend on the job and the industry that you're in and the company you're working for. We have a very low unemployment rate, especially among professionals. And, you know, you can negotiate your, I'm not going to say rights, but you can negotiate your terms. I know people that get 3 or 4 weeks off a year. I know people that don't. I know people get tons of time off. I know people that make a lot more money. So it's all, you know, depending on income, flexibility, that type of thing. It's all whatever you can negotiate, basically. There's not a lot of hard, fast rules in America, but there are industries where there are standards, like teachers. Teachers aren't going to work 12 hours a day every day. It's just not the nature of the industry. Most teachers get off at least, you know, 8 weeks in the summer, and at least another 2 or 3 weeks during the year between spring break and Christmas break or Thanksgiving break, depending on where you're at. So it all depends on industry. Obviously, countries vary, but even within the countries, the industries vary dramatically.
marketing, I think the idea of work-life balance will not necessarily apply. This is an industry where work and private life often blend together because you are often on location with clients, maybe a hotel chain, an airline, a restaurant, or some other kind of business. And because of this, these kind of events are not always counted as work time. So the working hours are also pretty shady, even here in Germany with strong labor laws, because certain companies will not count this as work time. And actually, these kind of sort of exclusive access to events and experiences are often considered a perk of the job. Similarly, if you are working in hospitals or in healthcare, I really don't think that you can rave about the benefits of work-life balance in these kind of industries. Having said that, let's dive in.
All right, where are my German friends? What do you think about that? Yeah, I know you guys take that stuff very seriously. I've read up a little bit. I know you guys have very, very strict labor laws and stuff. I still think it affects the overall economy, but Germany obviously is the outlier. You know, if you compare the UK to Germany, somehow Germany makes it work and the UK just kind of doesn't as well, let's say. Where my UK friends at? Come on, give it to me. Type, 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 type. You know what I'm saying. As an American, an average middle-aged American, I do think that if you give too many rights to workers, it can decrease productivity. I know that sounds terrible, but what Americans try to do is make it up with money or benefits. It doesn't have to be a right to be a benefit. Plenty of companies give great benefits. I got a friend works from home, has a company car, and works from home. Doesn't even go into his office anymore. He gets 3 or 4 weeks off. I'm sure he's six figures, you know, and he gets every holiday off and tons of personal time and all of that. Tons of stuff. Insurance and medical insurance and life insurance and stock options, all kinds of benefits. Those aren't rights, they're benefits. It's part of the job. It's why he works for that company instead of another company. So there's a difference between, being a slave driver and offering different benefits for different jobs and different titles and different incomes and that kind of thing. Just my opinion.
Communication is so important. I do believe it is one of the most underrated skills in this day and age, and it will be a recurring.
When I went through management school at one of my companies that I worked for, they said the number one reason that people leave their job is communication issues. It's not the pay, it's not the benefits, it's not the work life, it's the lack of knowing where they stand, how to improve, how to get promoted, training. It's all communication. It wasn't how they were treated. It wasn't, the physical environment they worked in. It was communication.
Theme throughout this video. Now, I'm going to need a little help from the British audience with this video because I have not worked in the UK for quite a while and I might not be completely up to date. But I do remember when I was still there that workplace banter was a thing. I'm not sure if PC culture has now killed this off, but much of what went on in British workplace was lewd, crude, and risky banter. Lots of sarcasm, lots of backhanded digs, and just generally taking the piss. And I do think generally it was all done in good faith. And it was in many ways a way for people to get through or to somehow sort of enjoy the workday if they were working in a rather toxic or difficult environment. If things went south, there was a tendency to just take the piss and talk about the catastrophe in sarcastic tones, all the while remaining very cool, calm, and collected. Woe is the man who does not understand this kind of humor, because you will spend a lot of time being very confused, feeling hurt and upset if you take things too seriously. In contrast, my experience of the German workplace, at least up until the current job that I have now, more on that on another video at some point in the future, but my experience has been that it is generally, something to be taken seriously. If things go south in the German workplace, there is a tendency, at least there was at the multinationals where I worked, to find out who is to blame. The auto response whenever there was some kind of mistake or anomaly was to ask the question, who was it? Wer war das? Wer hat das gemacht? And if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Germany, the auto response to this is ich war's nicht. It wasn't me. A constant dance of trying to place and trying to avoid blame. So this might offend some of you, but it really is just an observation that I've made during my 10 plus years of working here in Germany. If I had to describe the German workplace, or some, not all, but some of my ex-colleagues and the people that I've come into contact with since working here, the most apt phrase to describe this would be righteous indignation. To be of the complete and utter persuasion that something morally wrong has been done. And because of this, it is fully justified to get completely outraged and upset. It seems that.
Yeah, now that we have 500 and something subscribers, I have gotten quite a few different opinions from quite a few different people from all over the world. But the general consensus is that I have some German in me just by the way I act. Now, turns out that I do have German ancestors. I also have Scottish ancestors. My wife has German ancestors. And it's interesting because I've never even been to Germany. nor have I ever even met one of my ancestors from Germany. But I do have a lot of German similarities. Like when it comes to work, there is someone to blame. Doesn't mean that you have to torture the guy, but it means you got to correct the problem. It's not fun and games. It's productivity. It's doing the best job that you can do with the available tools that you have. You know, it's maximizing productivity. It's about doing it right. Doing as much as you can do as accurately as possible without sacrificing quality. These are just standard work ethics. So, yeah, people act like I'm not as empathetic as I should be, or that I don't smile enough, even on camera, that I look angry. Trust me, you'll know when I'm angry. I'm not angry. See what I did there? I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, it is interesting that it's almost in DNA. And I know that that's crazy because I am a firm believer that you're a product of your environment, and I've never lived in Germany. However, my father's a stern person and a very productive person, and he owns his own company, and so I'm sure I get a lot of it from that. But it is interesting how, if you compared America and the UK and Germany, it's almost like the United States is kind of in between the UK and Germany, really, at least from the outside looking in. Now, I know the Germans have more benefits by right, but it sounds like they have a lot less tolerance too. So, in the United States, it's kind of like that. Obviously, productivity is a big deal in the U.S., but there's also a lot of fun in the workplace too. You know, companies that I've worked for, whereas the UK might seem like they just kind of let a lot of stuff slide.
There is quite a lot of joy to be found in getting worked up and getting outraged at what this customer did or what that colleague said. Now, I have been here a very long time in Germany, and I would say I have come to appreciate Germany's direct style of communication, at least in the workplace. But when I think back, there were quite a few culture shock incidents. There is a very strong sense of
There was always a slogan that I remembered. Well, there's two really big ones. One of them is under promise and over deliver, which means, you know, do your job. Do your job. Don't promise things that you're not going to get done or you're not going to do by a certain date or whatever. Always do more than you promised. Under promise, over deliver. Simple. Sure, that's worldwide. The other one was don't let it be your fault. And that gets tricky because when you hear it, it sounds like not me. And that's not it. It's as a manager or a supervisor or even a colleague, do everything in your power to empower others to be able to do their job proficiently. Don't let it be your fault that guy failed. Don't let it be your fault that that salesperson wasn't successful or whatever the case is. No matter what your role, whether it's to train other people or to support other people or to manage other people, don't let it be your fault. Do everything that you can do and more to prevent an issue down the road. Think of it like an assembly line. You know, if you got a part that goes through 10 steps, if the first step gets screwed up, then every step after that's going to get screwed up, and it's 10 times the problem.
right and wrong in Germany. You know, with many processes and tasks, there is a right way to do things, and any deviation from this way is considered wrong. And it is very
Absolutely.
important to let people know when they are doing things wrong. And I think the most obvious example of this is, you know, when Germans will literally say, they will just say, you know, das machst du gerade falsch, das ist falsch, was du gerade gesagt hast. Like literally translated, they will say, you are doing that wrong. That is wrong what you just said, or that's wrong what you are doing. This translated, especially to a sort of new language learner, is in English a personal attack. Like this is literally very rude. And I do remember apologizing profusely, when I was confronted with this kind of communication. I was thinking, shit, what the hell have I done? Was it really that bad? And I think it was just a great example of, miscommunication, because the response which I usually got was, there's no need to apologize. It's not a big deal. Just don't do it like that again. And again, it comes back to the fact that, it's very important to point out where things are going wrong. So I'd say in the context of...
This is very interesting because when I think of Germany, I think of precision. I've said it before in other videos, but it's true. I think of Porsche, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, Benz. There's German watch manufacturers that are, basically Germany, Japan are the only two countries that really compete with Switzerland at all in the horological world. It's just it's always precision. Bosch, or what, just you can name 100 companies out of Germany. It's precision. It's funny how countries just take on personas. It really is. I mean, you can name 5 products and you'll think of that country. And it may not even be the fact that the manufacturers are in that country. It's just that association, the precision. You think of America, you're going to think of fast food, or, capitalism, or Hollywood, or Disney. There's just that persona. So yeah, there's right or wrong. When you're making part 161, a tensioner, or a spring that goes into a Rolex, there's right and there's wrong. It's just the way it is. It's precision. It's that kind of attention to detail that makes or breaks you. There is a do and a don't, a black and a white. Not a lot of gray area when you're making nuclear weapons. It's all about right and wrong.
Work. This communication style is highly effective. If you really want to progress and learn and develop, you want to progress in your career, then this really is a great way to do it. You get immediate feedback, you know where you stand, you know exactly what you need to do to progress, the steps you need to take, but it's just not always very enjoyable. And I would say if you are somebody who's not particularly interested in learning and improving, this is going to be a challenge for you. The German workplace is not for sissies. In terms of communication style, it is generally a lot more.
I know I'm cutting in a lot. I know. I just keep remembering all these things that I was taught. And the other one was, you can't fire somebody if you haven't communicated properly to them what they're doing wrong. In other words, it's not their fault if they don't know they're doing it wrong. It's your fault as a manager. So where I worked, my companies, you always had to have a trail of paperwork. Don't even talk about terminating somebody, even though in America, most places you can fire somebody for any reason. Doesn't even have to have a reason. I don't need you anymore. It's called work at will. And same thing. They can quit without a reason, without notice, technically. And you can't really slam them for it if somebody calls you up for a reference. A lot of legal stuff going on there. So the idea is you could get rid of somebody for any reason. You don't have to have a reason. But from a corporate standpoint, to fill that position again, to train somebody, severance pay, whatever, all the different things that come into effect, it's going to cost a lot more money than just fixing the problem. So if you haven't had a verbal discussion with them and another verbal discussion with them and then a training and then a sit down with a written game plan, and then a follow-up to that sit down for their written game plan, and then a warning of termination, and then, a final documented infraction, don't even think about firing them. It's not their fault if they don't know that it's wrong. So yeah, so that instant feedback that he's talking about, although it may hurt the ego, I mean, that's how you fix a problem. And if you're an electrician or a nurse or a policeman, things have to be corrected right then and there. It could cost somebody their life a week later. You don't just wait till you have some downtime. You correct the problem right then, right there. So I'm with that. It's the German in me.
More formal in Germany than it is in the UK. It's not uncommon for a manager to address certain people with the informal do and others with the formal Z. And this could be for a number of reasons. Maybe they've just known each other longer. Maybe they knew each other before they started working together. And I do understand that in English, it's also possible to know
That's how it's
who's more or less
received.
friendly with each other
Yeah.
because of the way they interact, the words they use, and sort of their body language and all that kind of stuff. But, just having this formal and informal language structure in German makes things really crystal clear. And in my opinion, just creates a bit of a weird dynamic. Having said that, this has changed a lot in the last 10 years. And
But it also depends. I got a gnat driving me crazy. It also depends on the person's personality receiving the message. Different people receive messages different ways. You can give them all the same script, you know, we're going to put you on an improvement plan. If this doesn't happen, then this and that, and blah, blah, blah. You can say all the same things different ways because different people receive it different ways. You can sandwich it. Hey, man, I just want to tell you, you did a great job today. One thing I got to tell you about is something that happened yesterday. Blah, blah, blah. We got to fix it. That's a serious situation. I know, that it wasn't addressed yesterday. Unfortunately, I didn't hear about it till today. But dude, we wouldn't even be sitting here if I didn't have faith in you. I'll go out there and go get, go take care of that thing like I saw you take care of last Wednesday. That was incredible. Have a great day. Boom. You sandwich, a lesson in between two compliments. And then somebody else is like, just cut to the chase, man. What? I'm off in 15 minutes. What? So different people receive messages different ways. You don't do all that paperwork so you can fire them. You're doing all that paperwork to document you trying to not fire them. That makes sense. I know. You didn't watch this video to listen to a lesson on how to deal with people in America, but I do find it interesting. I would imagine there's quite the contrast between the UK and Germany. Just from the videos I've watched and the people I've talked to.
many large organizations have implemented the use of do company-wide. So even top senior leadership are now sort of on an informal do basis with the whole company. So I would say the upside of this German attention to detail and this sort of not shying away from critical analysis is obviously that Germans tend to be a lot more efficient in the workplace than their UK counterparts, at least if we sort of exclude government departments and the public sector. Generally, Germans are more efficient. They spend less time horsing around. They are more focused. And that is even though they take more holidays and more sick days. And this brings me on to the next important point of sick leave. So sick leave in German is common. Going to the doctor is very common. And coming into work when you are sick is not appreciated. It is not seen as a badge of honor. And most likely you will be sent home. Now, there are two camps as to...
Now, I will tell you that in America, that varies dramatically. Good companies, good bosses don't want you there sick. From the standpoint, it's bad for morale, and quite frankly, you get other people sick. Not so great businesses or really small businesses that are short-handed, they can pressure people to work when they're sick, and it's not a good thing. Or sometimes you're just in such a small company that you have to work, you feel like you have to work. Let's say you work for a guy who owns 5 gas stations, and he's got 7 employees, or 10 employees. You may, if you don't show up, that gas station's not working. So, there's situations. Should it happen? Of course not. Is it realistic? Yeah. But it all depends on how good your boss is, how good your company is. And again, that's work at will. You can leave and go find a better company.
Why this is. The first camp is, it's out of compassion. People are very concerned for their colleagues. They don't want to infect anyone else on the team. So they're doing it out of love for the company and the team, because if they came in and infected other people, it would actually impact the business negatively. The other camp is maybe a little more cynical, and it is the fact that it is very easy to get a sick note in Germany. Doctors love giving out sick notes. And on top of that, you actually are not allowed to ask employees what kind of sickness they have
And
or
you
why
shouldn't.
they can't come into work. So at least in the UK, to my knowledge, you still have to come up with a valid excuse, a valid sickness as to why you cannot work. So would...
Wow, what an invasion of privacy. What an invasion of privacy. All you UK guys giving me so much crap about our medical system and our taxes and our employee rights and everything else. I can tell you that in America, you don't tell your boss why you're sick. No, you know, if it's something like COVID or if it's contagious or something like that, you could say that, but you don't have to. Now, they can't fire you for any reason, so I guess you gotta look at it from that standpoint. But in all seriousness, God forbid if you had a miscarriage or something like, you don't have to tell your employer that. That's insane. Insane. Now, obviously, this is one gentleman, but he is from the UK. So tell me how right or wrong he is.
I recommend working in Germany? Look, I tend to avoid giving recommendations just because these are sort of experiences and yours might differ to mine. But it was very important in this video for me to give an open and honest account of the interpersonal interactions which you can expect when working in Germany. Now, this particular aspect is not solely based on my personal experience. I have had many discussions with many foreigners, and I think this is something that a lot of people really struggle with, and it's not talked about enough, which is why it was very important for me to go into a little bit of detail. So this is something that you really need to be prepared for. You will really need to check your ego, because it probably will get bruised and damaged quite a bit in the German workplace. Having said all that, there are a lot of benefits which I didn't cover. The obvious one for me is pay. Compared to the UK, I can earn significantly more money in Germany, even after all the taxes and the deductions. There is ridiculous job security. It's quite difficult to get fired if you do your job to a good standard. You have very strong labor laws. You have things like subsidized travel, subsidized food, depending on which company you're working for. There's time off, holidays, all that kind of good stuff. But this video is getting a little bit long, so I'll leave it there.
All right, UK people, what do you think about that? When he says he can earn significantly more, I wish he would have gone into detail as far as the cost of living difference. I mean, you can earn significantly more working in the United States. But if you're working in New York City, the cost of living is quite high. Or Los Angeles or Chicago or Miami. It's not all about how much you make. It's how much you make it relative to the cost of living. Now, if you compare like the UK to America, on average, we make almost twice as much as someone in the UK, a little less than twice as much median household income. And our homes are generally more than twice as large. But our medical costs are higher. But our gas prices are lower. And our housing prices are lower. Food's about the same. So it's all relative. If you have 6 kids, the size of your house matters. If you're a single professional, the size of your house may not matter. It's all relative. It's a good video, though. Check out his other stuff. I'll put a link down in the description. My wife and I are going to start doing some international traveling once some of this inflation goes down and we're getting a little closer to retirement. So anyway, if you liked the video, I appreciate a thumbs up. I would love it if you subscribed. It's a great community. You can learn tons in the comments section. Very active subscription base. That's about all I got for this video. I do appreciate you, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.